And welcome back to AR Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Mirabal, and today I am returned by Lang Johnson. We just spoke to her last week with the gang, Marie Terry and Sandy Wright. Now she is back for a little solo episode to talk to us. Lang, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. For those that are unaware, she is a romance erotica author, just dropped Devil's Breath. A lot of press. I always see her on Instagram dropping all the things that she's doing. Her agent's repping her hard. Everything is going just swimmingly, I can imagine. But to hear from her, how's everything going with the release of your book? And it's a debut, so congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's actually going really well. It's going way better than I thought, than I expected. There was a lot of stress prior to the launch just because it's a debut novel and I didn't know what I was doing. And then, I was expecting to maybe sell 5 books and be happy with it, but very, very happy with all the results. And yeah, it's going great.
Now, for those that are unaware that haven't listened to the episode, and if you haven't, go ahead and do so. But what she spoke about last time she was here with the gang in the group cast was that she was talking about that she had been writing for a while, but due to just trying it through the industry, going like the traditional method, she had a lot of uphill battles, a lot of obstacles, until she finally decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going my own route, self-publishing. And now I think that's a little bit why that expectation of like 5 books is so like spectacular, because from self-publishing always has that negative connotation about it. So how do you feel about that? How has your perception of the self-published industry changed now that you're going that route?
It's actually changed a lot. For a long time, I was very focused on just traditional publishing, to say like, oh, I made it if I'm traditionally published. I still have a dream of possibly getting there with maybe my next book. But honestly, self-publishing has just been like really, really good experience for me, as far as, people actually reading it. The reviews coming in have been really good. I think with self-publishing, it is a little bit slower because you don't have that big marketing team. Like, they back you with like a lot of money when you're traditionally published. So, it grows a little slower, but I do like where it's headed. Like the amount of books and ebooks that I've sold is more than I expected to sell. The feedback that I'm receiving, it's all been really good so far. So.
My God, that is so exciting. So how did it go from having this idea of traditionally published, that there's going to be somebody that come in and fine tune everything? There's going to be a company that comes in and gives me an editor, that gives me a cover designer, that gives me an interior designer, a person that does my marketing. And how is that shift now that it's all on your head? How did you go out and find those things by your own accord? Or was it something that you found thanks to your agent?
So my agent was very helpful with a lot of things. She gave me a lot of resources. She also got me a few things that I think helped. Just with having an agent, such as I have some reviews from traditionally published authors, like Talia Hibbert is one of them, and I don't know if you're familiar, but she's actually a really big like New York Times bestselling author. So I was able to have her blurb. She read my book and have her blurb on my actual cover of my book. So those are the great things. I mean, there's a lot of great things with having an agent. Well, specifically my agent, because she's very helpful. I can't speak for all. I don't know about other agents. But as far as, doing a lot. So full disclosure, I have spent a lot of money because some of it was learning experiences. There was certain things that I spent money on that I realized I didn't need to spend money on. For example, formatting my book. I could have just done that myself. And I learned how to do it myself. So if my next novel is self-published or future novels, I can just format my own book. Other things like the cover designer, I had to go through like 3 different cover designers, which all cost money until I found one that I really liked. So, I mean, there are those hurdles with self-publishing that traditional publishing probably doesn't have because they already assign you a team. But at the same time, it's good. It was a learning experience, and now I know, and I don't really regret it, because I've learned from it.
And how does the agent work? Because I would consider you an almost hybrid author. The fact that you do still have your roots in traditional publishing. You went through, even with the agent thing, you went through the magical number of 40 rejections before you got the person that you actually vibed with, the person that actually like would want to see you grow and help you as an author. So even that, and again, I don't want to take the flame away from you. Can you explain that a little bit more for the people that haven't heard that story, that amazing story?
Yes. So with my first book, of Beasts and Gods, it's and I said it's a dark fantasy romance novel.
Yeah, I loved hearing
I
about it last
queried,
episode.
yes, from the last episode, I queried agents after that. So I wrote my query letter. I looked on different sites. That one of the most popular sites that people recommend is Manuscript Wishlist, where you can go there and search. For example, I wanted my main character was like a very like strong feminist lead, tribal. So I searched for agents that were looking for something similar, like a dark romance, dark fantasy, somebody like a diversity in the novel. So I found her and I queried her, and she liked my novel. So she wrote me. You send the first 3 to 5 chapters, depending on the agent.
Mm.
So I think hers was 3. It could have been 5. So I sent that. Maybe a few weeks, or it could have been a month later, she wrote me and said, "Hey, I really like these 3 chapters. Send me the rest of your book." Sent that. It could have been a few weeks or a month later. She came back and said, "I love this. Let's have a meeting." Zoom. She's in Canada. The company's Canadian based. So had the meeting. Then she said, let me discuss with my team. That was stressful for me. I was like, okay, I was like checking and checking and checking my email to like, is she going to sign me? Is she going to sign me? And eventually, funny story, I was sitting outside of Barnes and Noble when I got an email from her saying she wanted to sign me. And right outside of Barnes and Noble, I was like, this is perfect. So that's how that happened. But I mean, I did get 40 rejections prior to that. So, it's a lot of work. I have a friend that got 60, another friend that had like 151. I have one that had like 12, or actually I had one that just got picked up right away after like one query. So so it all depends on the person.
What an astonishing journey. So you went through 40 rejections in order to find that one agent that's been phenomenal. And maybe this question is a little bit more for me, but I feel like a lot of listeners would also want to know as far as like authors and other people that are inspiring writers. But what is the deal with the agent? Does she take a certain percentage of the money gross, or do you pay her a
So
service fee for
so
her service?
you never ever pay an agent. If you pay if an agent, that's a red flag. So if you talk to somebody and they said, "I'll be your agent and you have to pay me this amount of money," that's a scam. So never ever pay an agent. The agent does the work for free because they believe in your work, and they take there's a whole contract and everything, and then they do take a percentage of if they
Earnings.
get you a deal, right? Like if they get you a deal, then they take a percentage of that. It can differ, based on the book. And then if they have movie deal, audio deal, it's all. My agent is actually pitching my novel, even though it's self-published right now. She's pitching it to audiobook companies, and uh, actually, I think one of them is like a Netflix company that actually asked to see it or something. So she is pitching it still to different platforms. But yes, so to answer your question, yes, you don't pay an agent unless they get paid if they get you a deal.
My God, and one of the things that I love the most about us talking last time was just like that the diversity in your genres when you write. Like you said, the Of Beast and Gods was more of a fantasy romance, and then you have the Devil's Breath. So again, for the people that are unaware, can you give a little bit, without spoiling too much, but give a little bit of what Devil's Breath is? It just came out, folks. You need to hop on it. Out on Amazon, you can get it. All the information will be at the bottom. You already know the deal with that. Hop on it, pick it up, hit notifications on. Know anytime she drops the next book. But again, please go ahead.
Sure. So it's a dark romantic suspense novel. The female character is her name is Sarah, and she is an assassin. She's a nightclub owner, but she's actually an assassin. She's teamed up with her father to grow their like criminal enterprise. She creates a new drug. I'm sorry, she's also a chemist. She went to college as a chemist, so she creates a new drug called Devil's Breath. It's designer drug, top of the line. They're going to dominate the drug trade with it, but they need some money. So part of it is her meeting Cassius, this billionaire. He's, good guy, just not in her industry. And she has to like lure him into her web, kind of like femme fatale type thing. And but he thinks something is off, he can't quite figure it out. And then through that they're both falling for each other, but it's kind of like this game of chess because he's not sure what's happening with her and she's obviously trying to kill him. But they're falling for each other, but it's like, can she betray her father? So the tagline is, family maybe forever, but is love worth risking it all?
Wow, I love that plot line. Well, we talked about it last time. I think I'm still just thinking about every like here and here. I love a good female assassin story. When you bring in all the other ideas on top of that, phenomenal.
Thank
What
you.
immediately makes me think is, Marie and Sandy are very erotica heavy. It's almost like hard to distinguish which one is the more triple X rated. So where would you find yourself between that alignment? Do you think that are you very explicit, or are you more let the reader lead on?
So it's not fade to black. So the scenes are explicit scenes, but I don't have mine is more like a slow burn throughout the novel, and then there's like a few like very like explicit like sex scenes. But the more the novel is like that slow burn of like the tension and and that's kind of what I write in all my books is more of that slow burn tension, flirting, but like sexual flirting. And then there are the scenes, but it's like the slow burns maybe 90% of the novel, and then the explicit scenes are like 10% of the novel.
Wow.
Yeah. So
It immediately makes it too, because just speaking as a writer, I know that when I start writing a certain genre, I like to almost get myself into the mood of it. If I know that I'm going to write an action sequence for that day, I'll watch an action movie. Do you have a reference for that? Like, do you have like something to like kind of like get you going into to get into that mindset of like the romance of the slow burn?
I read a lot of books about, I read a lot of books. I also watch, certain shows and movies that will give me like ideas. I actually take notes sometimes. How my agent put it is when she was pitching it to publishing companies, she was pitching it as Power. I don't know if you've seen Power. It's 50
Yes.
Cent Power. Okay, so Power mixed with gunpowder milkshake or something. Have you heard of
Okay,
it?
yeah, Gunpowder. No, that was a good movie. I like the
Yeah,
cinematography on that a
so
lot.
that's kind of how she put it too. And then sometimes she says Power and Breaking Bad together or something. So
Oh my God, Breaking Bad's another one. You're selling me, honestly. Um, and another thing that makes me question too is like the emotion that you're feeling when you're writing. If I'm writing an action sequence, my heart is racing a little bit. I have my hands are getting clammy. If I'm something writing a very emotional scene, I'll myself get emotional. Like how do you feel when you're writing your own scenes, like the slow burn? Is it something that you're at a coffee store and you're kind of like, oh Jesus?
woo, this is
Woo!
crazy. Good thing I have a very like I can my face can be like, okay. Yeah, it's like more like a giddy feeling, like
I
ooh,
totally get that. Yeah,
I think that's
like
why
young love.
yeah, like I think that's why I like the slow burn because for me, even with like dating, I've been married, we've been together 10 years, but even with like like I love the like newness, like the before, like all the build up to it. I like that, like, oh, so not like a teenagey type. I mean, obviously my book is adult and not young adult, but just like that, like it's gonna happen. Oh, it didn't happen. Somebody called, or like we're in a restaurant and it's like this tension, the heat, and it's there, but we're in a restaurant, like so kind of thing. So that's how like it's just a whole build up. But yeah, it's more like a giddy feeling, like, oh, when's it gonna happen?
Well, I love that, and I love where you get the ideas for your writing. It makes me immediately wonder, what is the future? Are you gonna do a sequel to Devil's Breath? Are you gonna continue on with the fantasy? Are you gonna go a different route? Are you gonna try sci-fi romance? I love that. I feel like that's a genre that does not get enough love. But like
Yeah.
Her, you ever watch that movie Her?
Her, maybe. I
It's
don't know. I'm
uh
bad with names.
Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. It's like he falls in love with a cell phone. You ever watch that movie?
I think I did actually. Yes, yes, yes. I did see that movie. That
Yeah.
was cool. Yeah, yeah. I do. I remember that. That was a really good one.
Yeah, that's why I like sci-fi romance. It's like, it's the idea that romance, I mean, it's an idea. I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to, Interstellar could arguably be a sci-fi romance movie if you think about it. If you give yourself some liberties. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
what type of genres do you think you want to pursue in the future, or do you think you're gonna stick with the mafia-esque power genre that you started for yourself in Devil's Breath?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick. I mean, the future is the future, so I don't know. But as what I for now, my mindset is to stick with that. Dark romance, more romantic suspense. I do like confession here, and I don't, I don't shame what anybody reads, what anybody writes, just personal preferences. I like more, I think I write the romantic suspense because I like more like there's like action. I don't really enjoy straight romance, just like romance upon romance upon romance. Like I like there to be like an action scene and so that's why I think I do the romantic suspense part. Um, I do like fantasy romance because again, there's like dragons or it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be dragons, but there's like a world building, and so I am planning to continue to do fantasy as well, to continue with fantasy romance as well.
And I love how just those inclusions of other genres can just like blend. I mean, I wouldn't say that The Handmaiden's Tale is off the top that you would say it's like a fantasy, but if you think about it, it is a fantasy. It's world building
Mhm.
within its own setting.
Oh yeah, I love Handmaid's Tale. Or
Mm.
I haven't watched like the newest ones, but before, and I read the book and it was really good.
So now that we're approaching the end of the podcast, I wanted to leave it now to any promotions. Do you want to give a shout out to any fellow authors out there, beta readers, your agent, any company that you're repping as far as like publishing goes? And again, if you have anything upcoming, I would love to like this is the chance of the people to get excited about it. And again, Devil's Breath out now, folks. Get it. Amazon. Stop wasting time. This is the book that is worth getting. Trust me.
Hmm. Um, so repping, oh my gosh, there's so many people. Well, obviously Sandy and Maria, I want to
Definitely.
rep them. They're amazing. My agent Leonica, she is for Transatlantic Agency, so her and the agency are amazing. Um, so many authors. My friend Caitlin, she wrote The Damage, traditionally published. It's suspense, not romantic suspense, straight suspense. And my friend Mackenzie Burns, she writes fantasy, between YA and new adult fantasy. Um, and I want to rep my publicity companies, which is Forward PR and also Aurora Publicity, because honestly, I don't think anything would have been as good without them, because I think they're like a huge part to why I'm doing well with this.
My God, it's like you like were seeing into my mind's eye. We were just like vibe for a second because usually I like to end these episodes on like a quick tip, and easily one of the tips that I think you would help on is that idea of the PR marketing team. I think anyone can attest to how difficult marketing is if one, you're not aware to it, two, you're not even prepared to do it, right? Because everyone that gets into writing has this idea of it. They're going to be Stephen King writing in a log as the fire goes on in the back, sipping on whatever you want to sip on, and
Right.
everything's getting taken care of for you. But it's not like that, and you have to wear a lot of hats during this
Right.
process, especially if you're self-published.
Yeah.
So, how did that PR firm work for you, and what tips can you give to people as far as that aspect of what you did, because I think that's a very, when we talked, that was definitely one of the highlights of like the career
Yes. Okay. So
and
the
what you're
PR
doing.
company, they work because so basically they know more than I do, number one. When they have connections and contacts. So, as you are a fellow writer, reviews are super important.
Mm.
So they connect you with all the ARC, they take care of that actually. They send your work out to different ARC readers. They make sure like, hey, get this back to us by this date. Um, they blast you on all the social media accounts. Do they book you for blog tours, takeover parties on Facebook, just a bunch of different like promotional things where you have to be there. um, then the PA, which is like the personal assistant, she takes care, like when I had to do a takeover tour, I didn't know what to write for it. So I just said, hey, I have like, the PR company gave me like 8 blog tours and takeover tours I'm supposed to do. Can you write the material for it? And she did. Um, so that left me to, focus on like my own little marketing things. Also I have a private Facebook page. She'll post on there for me if I'm like falling behind. She does author swaps for me with the book. So they just take care of a lot of stuff. And I highly recommend, I mean, everyone's financial situation is different, but if you could, I would highly, highly recommend it for self-published authors. I mean, even traditionally published authors do have some PR, like V.E. Schwab has a PR company that she works with. So, and I don't know if, anyone, if people don't know her, she's like a huge fantasy author. So.
There is so much to be learned in this industry, and honestly, there is so much to learn from you. Thank you for coming on. It has been phenomenal. Everything that you're doing with Devil's Breath, everything you're doing as far as writing is not only inspirational, but it is awesome. Everything that I've been reading on myself, as far as the reviews, what I've read about the book, not too crazy much, but just like the intro that I was able to pick up off Amazon is phenomenal. I'm gonna pick it up immediately the moment I can myself. Honestly, I'm gonna give it a read. And I very much would recommend that anyone listening do the same. It is well worth the read. She is a friend of Marie and Sandy Wright. People, if you even semi like any of this, you need to hop on this. All right. Imagine this is like YouTube recommending a next video. This is the next video. This is the next one. Hop on it. And it is going to be well worth it. Again, Lang, thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure. This is going to be the end of the podcast. A.R.'s Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I've been A.R. This has been Lang. Thank you again. And please take it off. Give a farewell to the people.
Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for having me on again.
Thank you. And again, we will be back next week. Peace out.